Mass hysteria. PPL's dying. Wholesaling's over. The golden age of wholesaling is dead. Or is it? In today's video, we're going to unpack whether or not PPL is truly going to die in 2025 or if it's going to get better for us. What am I talking about? You're like, RJ, I have no idea. All right. So the FCC's TCPA one-to-one consent rule goes into effect on January 27th, 2025. Now, what is this? What is this TCPA one-to-one consent rule? Okay, so let's break this down. Here are the rules in regards to this regulation that goes in effect in January of 2025. Each lead generator or lead seller must obtain and retain appropriate prior express written consumer consent if robocall or robotext technology will be used in the marketing sales outreach. Prior express written consent has been clarified to mean an agreement that authorizes one identified seller, one, a goods or service company, to contact a consumer. For comparison sites with multi-select lists, the entities must be identified and selected individually by the end consumer consenting to the communication outreach. And the consent must be documented in writing and bear the consumer's signature in compliance with the e-Sign Act. The terms, agreement, and consent can be provided and captured digitally. It needs to have clear and conspicuous disclosure. Disclosures about the nature of the consent must be clear and apparent to a reasonable consumer. This includes informing consumers that they will receive robocalls or robotexts from the identified party. The communications must be logically and topically related to the initial interaction that prompted the consent. For example, if a consumer consents to communications on a car loan comparison website, they should not receive communications about unrelated services like debt consolidation. The rule codifies that text messages are subject to the same regulations as calls under the National Do Not Call Registry. Marketing text cannot be sent to numbers on the DNC list without prior express invitation or permission. Mobile carriers are required to block text from numbers flagged for sending illegal texts. This helps reduce spam and fraudulent messages. This is very important for us moving forward. Both lead buyers and sellers must keep thorough records of consent under the FCC one-to-one consent rule. Also under separate but related telemarketing sales rules from the Federal Trade Association. Businesses performing the communication outreach are required to keep these records for at least 5 years from the date of consent and outreach. This documentation is important to have in case of a regulator questioning or lawsuit inquiry and can serve as proof of the consent transaction. We're almost done, and then I'm going to break this down, okay? Businesses have a transition period to comply with these new requirements, which will officially be enforced starting January 27th, 2025. This period allows lead generators, marketers, and related businesses to adjust their practices and ensure they meet the new and updated consent requirements. All right. So after 4 minutes of reading this glorious regulation that's coming down on lead generation and us as an industry, wholesalers, what does this mean for PPL? Couple different things, but one, I want to point out that I already do have a response by one of the 3 PPL companies that we work with, Property Leads. I am also going to let you know that I will be getting a firm response and will be creating videos as long as they accept this. The invitation is being extended to the owners of LeadZolo, Property Leads, and Speed to Lead, the 3 PPL providers that we use here at Titanium Investments and everyone inside of Titanium University uses. That way we are clear and we understand the steps that they are taking both to protect their businesses and ours, because moving forward, getting that written consent from the sellers and making sure that we have documentation, that we have received that consent from the sellers, allowing us to reach out is going to be vitally important. That is one of the big takeaways. So I'm going to extend an invitation to the owners of those companies, make sure that we have an individual video documenting how they are going to protect us moving forward and how we will continue to be able to generate leads. Now, that being said, I said that we have a response already from property leads. So this is from Andy. Andy, in one of the groups that I am, already gave a response on this. So let me read Andy's response here. Paper lead will still be alive and well after the changes on January 27th, 2025. Exclusive lead providers will have to display the name of the lead buyer to the lead. So for example, now moving forward, when we go to property leads and we say, okay, we want to buy $2,000 worth of leads in the state of Texas, they are going to have to then allow the sellers to know that the company that is going to be reaching out to them will be Titanium Investments. Okay. So that's how they're going to get around that. They'll get that written consent saying that it is okay for Titanium Investments to reach out to them about purchasing their house. Big change here is non-exclusive lead providers would have to display multiple people that the seller must specifically select to sell their information to. No longer can the paper lead company sell someone's information multiple times without them specifically opting in. This is a benefit to us as the wholesaling industry. One of the things that I always laugh about is sometimes when regulations come down, inadvertently, it makes our industry better. And this is one of those circumstances. A lot of times people have questions about, hey, is this an exclusive lead? Is it non-exclusive? Well, this is going to fix it, because essentially, if you're not going to exclusively sell the lead to just one company, you would have to list all of the company's names that you're going to sell it to. Otherwise, you are not being compliant to this regulation. So, for example, if they wanted to sell it to 5 different wholesale companies, they would have to put all 5 wholesale company names on there and allow the seller to choose which one of those companies can reach out to them. Moving forward on Andy's response, he says, companies that don't follow the laws will be on the hook, as well as the lead buyer, aka us, the wholesaler. So it's very important that we understand how the PPL company is protecting us moving forward and getting that written consent. Individuals can take action, and I promise you there will be plenty of bulldog lawyers making waves and collecting cash with this law change. I know this all too well. A couple of years ago, well, actually, it was right after I won the initial Closers Olympics in 2021. I started posting short reels on TikTok, Instagram, and whatnot. And specifically on TikTok, there was a TCPA compliant attorney who just decided that he wanted to target my TikTok, and he was going after me hardcore. And what's funny is he didn't care if the lead was inbound PPL or if it was a cold text or if it was a cold call. He just thought that they were all illegal. I eventually had to block him from the comments that he was making all over my TikTok. I know that there are going to be attorneys that they're looking at this and saying, on January 27th, there is a gold mine for us to go out and sue so many different companies, because this doesn't just impact our industry. Of course, that's what I'm specifically talking about as a wholesaler. This impacts every industry. So I can promise you there's going to be plenty of attorneys ready to swim in the bloodbath. All in all, it's a fantastic change for the industry and will provide more transparency, something that we all wanted with PPL. Something that will die and is awesome in Andy's perspective is reprocessing refunded leads to lead buyers. This will die. It's going to go away. Now, property leads already doesn't do this, but it's definitely going to be a substantial loss of revenue for those that do. So what I take away from this is exclusive leads are going to become the new norm. When you process a refund as a PPL company, you can no longer sell that to another company because you only got the express written consent for that one wholesale company. So what does this mean? It means the price of PPL is going to go up. However, what I would say on the positive side of this is that the quality of leads is going to go up, because not only are they filling out a form, they are saying this one individual person can reach out to me. And if they don't do that, then no one gets the lead. And so every lead that's going to come in to me, the temperature of that lead, even though I don't like using that, became higher, hotter. It signifies even more motivation for them to go through this process. Now, another article that I found here was specifically about what needs to be in the written consent. Okay. And they actually broke it down to there's 15, according to this attorney, 15 different things that need to be in the written consent. So when I go and I talk to, the owners of Property Leads and Lead Solo and Speed to Lead, I'm going to ask them about this because I'm curious to see how this is going to be done. Now, this disclosure that this attorney has right here has an outline of how this looks. It's basically a short paragraph with some check boxes and a signature box. Okay. But these are the 15 items that they are saying need to be inside this disclosure. Disclosure must reference language on button. Disclosure must reference SMS, that those will be used in the campaign. So, for example, if we're saying we're going to text you, it needs to say that. Disclosure must reference AI-generated voices if it will be used in the campaign. I don't think the majority of us have that problem. So I don't think that would be on any of our disclosures. Disclosure must reference marketing. Yes, I would believe that would be the case. Disclosure must be above companies to be selected and accept button. So it has to say these companies are going to be the ones that reach out to you. Disclosure must reference the e-sign act, of course. Disclosure must advise companies may call on sellers' behalf. Disclosure must reference use of automated technology. Disclosure must allow consumer to select goods/service providers individually. Disclosure must advise consent is not required to obtain any good/service/credit. A small select all option can be provided but must not be forced on the consumer. Consumer must be able to obtain service without providing consent. Disclosure must mention pre-recorded or artificial voice messages if applicable. Only a reasonable number of companies should be displayed to consumers, so it can't be like 200 of them. And then the phone number should be supplied on same page as consent is provided. So essentially, the seller would say, you can call me at this specific phone number. That also eliminates us going through and skip tracing to find all of their other contact information. All in all, my biggest takeaway on this is the cost of PPL is probably going to go up just because they can basically only exclusively sell us leads. The quality of them are probably going to get better. This is probably going to eliminate a lot of our competition inside the wholesaling space that are already using PPL. They're going to look at it. There's going to be fear-based decisions. I'm sure there's going to be people that kind of contradict this, maybe even say PPL is dying, right? That's why I was like, oh, it's mass hysteria. Paper lead is dead. I don't think paper lead is dead. I got asked this on my live a couple of weeks ago, and I said, listen, I'm going to wait to see what the trusted PPL companies that I use, what is their reaction? Here is literally, I saw this today, and I am immediately, same day, giving it out to you guys. And I'm going to do this throughout from here until January 27th as we get updates on what's going to happen inside of these paper lead companies and how they're going to provide lead to us, how they're going to protect us. I think the other thing is from a business owner perspective, for the first time, we are actually going to have documentation. I would assume that these lead providers would be able to do that inside of our own individual logins. But I said this during my live when I got asked this impromptu, like, hey, what's going to happen to paper lead when this regulation goes in? And I said, if I had to assume, it would just be that moving forward, they're going to generate leads for us specifically, right? Have a landing page that says Titanium Investments. Maybe it says something else, but it will specifically say on the disclosure that it's for Titanium Investments. That seemed like the logical decision. I'm assuming that's going to be what happens moving forward. So another thing that I think will happen is I'm curious to see how Lead Zolo and Speed to Lead with their marketplace, that business model might become extinct. I don't know how they would be able to do that with the exclusivity of leads needing to be put into place. So I think that will probably go away. And I think there will probably be more of an onboarding process when you sign up with these paper lead companies, where they're going to have to get some information. They're going to have to build out the process, the ad campaigns, where it can't be as simple as just swipe the card, the lead comes in, and you have access. So does it slow us down a little bit there? Yeah. Does it become a little bit more costly? Yeah. But I don't, the PPL companies are also going to have to be reasonable inside of this. Now, I think they already have pretty slim margins just by talking to them. But I think what they're going to have to really look at is there's going to be a time period where they're not going to be sure of how much is this going to impact their ability to generate leads, right? How many sellers are going to click on these ads and go in and say, I'm not going to sign that disclosure down the bottom? I think at first there might be a little bit of a lull. Prices might be a little bit higher, and then eventually it'll become the norm. Most consumers, aka sellers in our industry, will get to the point where it's like they're used to that. You kind of gloss over. It's kind of like accepting the terms and conditions when you sign up for a streaming service, or when you go to sign up for anything that has, terms and conditions. That's what it kind of just, you'll gloss over it at some point in time and just accept it and move on. And then as it becomes the new norm, I think the prices will come back down. It'll level out, and there won't be much difference in the future. So do I think paper lead is dead? Absolutely not. Do I think it's going to be different? Of course. Do I think things will be different in 2026 and 2027? Absolutely. This is not the first time that we have seen the government intervene on some sort of marketing channel for us, and not only us, just across the board, every industry, right? We've seen this with SMS. We've seen this with cold calling. We've seen this with RVMs. Now we're seeing it here inside of the PPL realm. I think there will always be changes, and it's our job as business owners to make the necessary pivots, pay attention to what's going on. Let's not panic, okay? There's no need to hit the panic button here. We're still going to be able to close deals. There's always going to be motivated sellers. There's always going to be end buyers that are looking to buy deals. Then we're going to be just fine. And in fact, if you go into this and you look at it and you say, hey, this could be a positive for us, I think it will be for you. Let me know what you guys think in the comments. Make sure to give this a like. Let's get the message out. Paper lead, not dead. Wholesaling industry, going to be just fine. All right. I look forward to talking to everyone over at Property Leads, Lead Zolo, Speed to Lead, identifying how they're going to protect us and how they're going to continue generating leads for us even after January 27th, 2025. Appreciate you guys. We'll see y'all tomorrow.